Do you think hospitals and doctors should be responsible for the deaths that occur during a surgery? Or
Oh, of course. Now the question is, you are always involved. You are always responsible. But the question is, could you have prevented it? You see, the funniest thing with sleep is, I don't know whether you are married or not, that people realize the value of wife when she's away.
As of today, what is the biggest blind spot in the Indian healthcare system?
So Barack Obama tried to correct it, but now this US government shutdown is why? Because as soon as the US Senate passes President Trump's bill, about 15% of their population will lose instantly. They will lose health insurance.
If you're looking at modern office spaces in Kolkata, if you are looking at a reliable virtual office space, if you are looking at an office which is equipped to handle all your needs, then look no further than Easy Daftar in Kolkata. Special thanks to Easy Daftar for being our venue partner for today's episode. On today's episode, we sit down to talk to Dr. Kunal Sarkar. He's a cardiac surgeon with over 30 years of experience. If you wish to know about the best practices of the Indian healthcare system, this episode will give you an insight into the Indian healthcare system, its policies, its do's and the don'ts. We will also talk about the reality of organ trafficking in India. We'll also be talking about the darkest secrets of hospitals in India. We'll talk about the money involved in the hospital business, and we'll also be talking about the side effects of alcohol and smoking. Dr. Kunal, how are you? How are you doing?
Joy, not too bad. End of the day, a bit tired, but thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Today's question, it's a mix of the few generic ones which almost everybody wants to hear, wants to see. And then there are few questions which I think a lot of Indians want to know, but perhaps they often have to rely on sources such as Google or ChatGPT, which perhaps may not be 100% correct. So you are like the horse today. We'll be hearing from the horse's mouth, So doctor, we'll start with, let's start by breaking a myth. As normal people, there are so many myths we come across every day related to our health. Which is the most harmful myth according to you? And which you want to break today?
Well, I think, say our generation, and obviously we are dinosaurian compared to your generation.
Right.
But even if I think of my generation, I think my generation in our environment, in our country, in our city, in our society, honestly, they were a whole lot more sort of common sense educated about health than probably what it was a decade or two ago. But on the other hand, I think what really has happened, I'm a great devotee of the WhatsApp University and a great devotee of the social media. So I have a very positive outview of things. So if you ask of us as of today, we have been compelled to modernize ourselves.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you do not have a choice. Obviously, I cannot share your intellect, but I can share your times. So in some ways, I think in today's very frenetic, information-rich situation, I don't think, many sort of obscure myths survive today. But some of it that we should get out of, basically over is we always tend to think in general of a disease is like an accident. It always happens to someone else.
Right.
Whenever you drive on a road, on a highway, you see a ghastly accident which has happened. We should think, if I'm a bit callous, if I'm a bit sort of, wayward with what I do, can this happen to me? So I think it has to be a realization of today's generation, of today's people in today's life, that look, we are like a building, we are like a biological building, and certain upkeep will be necessary, certain fault lines will appear in our system, and diseases or health issues is not something with which we can all stay away from. At your age, definitely not. When you come to my age, you have to be kind of cautious. We cannot have the happy-go-lucky attitude that probably I had 3 decades back. So be aware of it, that we will not be free of trouble, but you want to minimize it. You want to detect time in hand. So do not behave as if that we have some God-given immunity from
Right.
all kind of
Right.
problems.
Right.
So that is really, I think, being a bit diffident. That is not confidence. That is ignorance.
Right. Right.
Don't be that.
Right. And if you have to really simplify it down for the younger generation, maybe 3 simple ways to live a happy and healthy life. The most basics, what will they be?
You see, be happy. Have fun. Enjoy your work. We are very lucky we are not young today, because being young today has its own challenges.
Right.
I'm extremely happy when I was born. I do not want to be. If somebody gave me an option to be a Gen Z, I would say please take it back, because I don't think being a Gen Z is a very generous offer in this day and age. But have fun, enjoy your work, live up to your challenges, and do not, inflict problems on yourself. You have enough problems at hand anyway.
Right. Absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you have enough problems on your hand anyway. You have 10 times the problem I had in my times. So do not make things worse for yourself. Smoking is not cool. Being completely, getting into sort of funny substance uses, etc., is not cool either. Right? Regarding your food and diet and occasional biryani and occasional soft drink, maybe, indulging in limits of alcohol usage, fair enough, that is accepted. So please do not get into problems that you can avoid.
Right.
And especially to the young urbanized women of today, smoking is not an urbanization index. Please don't fall for it.
Absolutely. Completely agreed.
Don't fall for it.
Right.
Have fun. You have enough problems.
Right. Right.
You need the fun to face up to the problems.
Right. And smoking is not fun.
Smoking
and it's
is
very
not
uncool.
fun. It's not cool at all.
Absolutely.
Not cool at all.
We often also, come across a few lines on the internet regarding sleep deprivation, that it is perhaps even more harmful than alcohol or smoking. How true is this?
You see, the funniest thing with sleep is, I don't know whether you are married or not, that people realize the value of wife when she's away.
Okay, right.
Not when she's around.
Yeah.
So the most important thing with sleep is, whenever you open any textbook of medicine, you just go through first 3 or 4 pages. You won't understand what on earth is the benefit of sleeping.
Right.
Nobody has understood that so far.
Right.
Not one bit of your body actually. The body does not go to it does not really goes to a shutdown. It doesn't. The brain doesn't go to shutdown. The heart doesn't go to shutdown. Probably, the skeletal muscles have a bit of a restful time. But having said that, there is a very inexplicable built-in reflex where those few hours of low activity state happens to be very important for us. It is. We in our training days, and not infrequently, we worked for 48 hours, 72 hours at a stretch. We've been in the operating theater 2 days, just nipped into the loo once or twice, probably not even had a meal in between. But once that punishing schedule of work finishes, you feel, the stress and strain of the sleep deprivation. How much do you need to sleep is a bit of a contentious question. I really think, if you look at that as we age, your necessity for sleeping actually decreases.
Okay, right, yeah.
It decreases. And one of the mental health issues that a lot of people get, once they are on the, say, other side of 60, other side of 65, they have terrible problems sleeping. And one of the reasons being, you see, perhaps they're not people who are retired. People who were used to 10 hours, 12 hours working shifts a day have suddenly, it appears retired life is blissful, but retired life can also be a void.
Right.
You don't know what to,
Correct.
you don't really know what to do with
Right.
yourself.
Absolutely.
So in those situations, but I think, for those of you are young, active, in profession, slogging it out the whole day, at least make sure you're getting 6 hours, 7 hours of sleep. But what bothers me more with people round about, say, your generation right now, is in this so-called global community, no matter how hard President Trump tries, we have very global working schedules these days.
Absolutely.
There are people who are waking up at unearthly hours, talking to clients. People who are working various customer services. So in this kind of a setting, I really worry for people who for weeks, who for days are following very abnormal biorhythms. Now, how do they cope up? Somebody's done a midnight shift.
Correct.
For about a 7-day stretch.
Right.
You have fought out through those 7 days. What about the next 7
Correct.
days? Can you suddenly switch on and switch off into these things? Now, our systems were not really made for it. Those of you who are doing it, those of you who are coping with, you are doing a great job. But please do see your friendly neighborhood doctor once in a while. Do have a check on the system, that what are the collateral damages my system is having from that. Because this is a very, this is a pretty common job that a lot of youngsters are in these days. Doing all these global connect work. And I was just speaking to a youngster, a daughter of one of my friends, who said, I've just done a 15-day stretch, when she used to start work at some 1 o'clock in the morning and finish at 11 o'clock from 001 to 11 or 10 in the morning next day. And I said, what happens after 15 days of that schedule? So you're doing a great job. But the question is it taking a toll on you?
Correct.
Now, I don't think we can have a very sort of shoot of the hip and say, these is what, tuck, 1, 2, 3, 4
Correct.
factors is happening to you. Yeah. To be very honest with you, if there is something funny happening inside, that is unknown. But once in a while, do get yourself checked up. Is it really upsetting your blood pressure? Is it really upsetting your sleep? And it's called circadian rhythm. The body is built on a 24-hour clock. Right. So is it really upsetting your circadian rhythm? Is it suddenly shooting off your blood glucose? Is it distorting your eating habits? You need to look after these things.
Dr. Kunal, is sleeping from 11 to 8, 11 p.m. at night to 8 in the morning, same as sleeping from 2 a.m. at night to say 9 or 10 in the morning?
Well, you see, in terms of the hours of rest your body is going to have, it probably means the same. But
Correct.
Where it is a little bit different is that our machinery is a pretty old machinery. This brain, this 6 feet of small intestine, 4 feet of sort of large intestine. This whole machinery is 120,000 years old. And this brain that you and I still use was wired 120,000 years before. So this brain is still very dependent on the daylight-dependent circadian rhythm. So our complex network of hormones, the adrenal steroids, the sugar mechanism, the arousal mechanisms, everything has been set off to a trigger. And what is the trigger? It is the sunrise. It is me and you waking up, and that trigger is supposed to start a day. Now, if I have done a shift whereby I'm waking up now at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, everything is still dark, how does my body react to it? I've had my rest. I probably managed a 5-6 hours sleep before. But if I go on doing this day in and day out, what are really the consequences of that? I think we need to be very alert regarding that.
Right. You as doctors, A lot of time there must have been cases where you've been, called at night or you've been
Oh,
working.
it still happens.
Yeah. So how do you get your rest?
You see, this I say these days I probably feel the stress a little bit more, but since there is more of a structure, we have more people working with us, and they say they're very kind-hearted people. They say spare the old man, unless really required. वो बुढ़ा को बुलाना नहीं है अभी. So we tend to manage. But in the days when we have trained, especially much of my training days was spent in England, a little bit in the United States, there it is relentless. We used to do weekends on call, which used to start from 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, the whole of Friday, the whole of Saturday, the whole of Sunday, and the next rest you're going to get is about 7 o'clock on Monday evening.
Exactly.
And that is a schedule we were doing sometimes once a month, sometimes twice a month. And this was taken for granted. Many of the doctors at our stage honestly used to suffer from tremendous exhaustion. And later on, much later on, we missed the bus. Later on, as we were finishing off in England, they came up with the very considerate, very kind European working hours, which really forbade anybody to do more than a 10, 12-hour shift. But we never enjoyed it.
So, Dr. Kunal, let's try and dissect a little bit of the Indian healthcare system and try and answer questions which can help the audience, help fellow Indians. What are the ways in which a private hospital can make a 10,000 bill become a 1 lakh bill?
You see, after I finish this interview with you, I have to be absolutely confident of the fact that I have a job to go back to tomorrow.
I agree on that, yeah.
So, so every answer is going to come with a statutory warning.
Absolutely.
That otherwise, if you people end up with having an unemployed doctor in your hands at this stage of my life, it's going to be a bit dodgy.
And to be honest, not all hospitals. Some of them, I'm sure.
Now, let us look at the general side of it. Let us look at the toxic side.
Right.
Of it.
Yes.
The good news and the bad news.
Yes.
The bad news is, inflation of bills, etc., etc. Does it happen? The short answer is yes. It does happen. Now, when does it happen? It happens in a setting. It is irrespective of which brand it is, how big the hospital is, whatever. You see, these hospitals tend to cut corners when they are under financial stress. And financial stress in healthcare sector, especially in the private sector, is not that uncommon at all.
Okay.
For every 100 rupees which is spent on healthcare in India, about 40 rupees is the money metabolism that happens in the government sector, and about 60% or 60 rupees happens in the private sector. Now you see, what is the problem? Why does this question repeatedly arise about healthcare? One thing be important. Supposing you, out of the goodness of your heart, you said, let's set up a hospital. You see, starting from land, building, etc., finances, your cash burn. So it is like setting up anything. It is a pretty expensive infrastructure. But unlike you see any other business, whether it is FMCG, whether it is with textiles, clothing, retailing, automobiles, anything, with healthcare we carry the burden of there are a lot of artificial cost constraints. A couple of days back, when you had this floods in Darjeeling, you know what was the airfare between Darjeeling to Bagdogra to Calcutta? The airfare of Bagdogra to Calcutta was in excess of 25,000-30,000 rupees.
One side.
Why? Because the demand was terrific. So with this terrific demand, your friendly neighborhood airline had all the liberty at hand. The algorithm was going on proportionately increasing the fare. But you see, I'm not saying that we try to copy the practices of airlines tomorrow morning. But what happens is a combination of social, political, policy making, everything put together People want private hospitals to give to give services, good quality, good outcome. At the same time, various factors put together will try to artificially control cost. Okay. Now that has a whole lot of negative effect on the business. When anything is artificial, we are in a money flow system.
Correct.
Okay. So if you are, if you are burning more money than you earn, then it is going to have tremendous side effects on the business. You won't pay your vendors, you won't pay
Absolutely.
your workers. The whole thing will be in a big mess. So because things are not entirely, health is also a very emotional business. Patients. We don't have clients and customers. We have patients. People going there who want to get better. It is under a very stressful situation. People have a whole lot of expectation from healthcare. So in summary, you see, if certain policies and certain conditions could be made a little bit easier for people who are investing and who are interested in this business, then that particular hospital will not feel an urge that, look, if a bill has truly come for 10,000, am I under tremendous pressure
Right.
that I'm going to pad it up a little bit, hike it up to 15,000. If I make it 20,000, how do you make it? There are lots of, you have differential charges for beds, you have differential charges for investigations. People can introduce various surcharges through here and there. But these various tricks of the trade, it is not as if this has not been tried. But one good thing is that once again, yes, there are artificial cost controlling policies, which is not good for the business. But what is good for the business is, because led by grievances, complaints, certain hangamas, which has happened time and again, a good watchdog activity now happens on hospitals.
Okay.
Okay. So if you consider our state, and there are similar mechanisms in each of the states in the country, you have bodies like the Health Commission, you have the Clinical Establishment Act, and you have various committees and bodies set up by the government. So supposing you feel that this hospital X has played smart with your bill, you can put in a complaint, and these people will jolly well summon the hospitals to come up. And this has happened.
Right.
When it was when and after a few times, when couple of the truants will get caught, then people are probably more careful now. That even if I wanted to be street smart, I rather not be, because I'm going to be humiliated in public vision.
Right.
So there are fundamental reasons why these happens. It should not happen, and even we are not God's gift to anything. So very good watchdog or ombudsman kind of activity is required, and it's good that kind of balance has come into the system
Right.
right now.
Do you think hospitals and doctors should be responsible for the deaths that occur during a surgery, or
Oh,
if
of course, of course. Now the question is, you are always involved, you are always responsible. But the question is, could you have prevented it? Life is not immortal.
Absolutely.
So there would be, India, 140 crore people. How many people die in India every night? 48,000. So in India, every given night, 48,000 people would have died. Some of them are avoidable, some of them are unavoidable.
Correct.
I'm a plumber, I plumb the heart. Every night, India is going to see 300,000 heart attacks. Some of them will go home, some of them will not. We are responsible to the point that, we should think with every death that happened in hospital, that have we done our best?
Right.
Has our treatment plan, whether it is medicine based or surgery based or whatever, have we been correct? Have we been logical? If we have been rational, logical, and given our best, yes, we are. Nobody, everybody, even our heart breaks to see a patient going. Look, I am involved in about 1,500 heart surgeries every year. With 1,500 heart surgeries every year, right now, this year, we would have done more than 2,500 heart surgeries. So even if you had 1% complication, how much is that? It is a fair number.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in each of these occasions, we have to question ourselves and say that, look, is there any way that things could have been different? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. And medicine is such a trade. You see, medicine is such a practice that it is not mathematical.
Right.
There was no formula to medicine. So medicine has learned over the ages, that we've learned through our mistakes, we have learned through what we've done before, and I think this learning will continue. We are responsible, but that doesn't mean you are incriminated.
Absolutely.
So there is a difference between the two. So it is not to say that we don't commit blunders.
Right.
Every year in the world, worldwide, at least a few hundred operations are done when people by mistake operate on the wrong side.
So, doctor, personally, how do you handle when a surgery goes wrong?
It's difficult. It's very shattering. It really makes us think. And in our situation, you see, where it is important is when we were, especially when we were in impersonal situations. I spent 11 years training in England. They had a very nice system, National Health Service and all. And our superior and our professors and seniors used to tell us, never get personally involved with the patient, family, etc. What happens? But probably we were not that personally bought in. We were not personally involved in the situations. Not so much in England, but ever since it's been in another couple of years, it would be 30 years of my medical practice in this country. With my people, with my surrounding, with my city, there are people who could as well be my relatives.
Right.
There are families who might as well have lived next door to me.
Right. Right.
They are not at all very different from what you and I are. So when you have these situations, we operate from children from 2 hours of age to 102 years of age. So when you have a difficult situation with a child, you react in a different kind of way. When you have a situation with somebody who's been an earning member of the family, you do go back and think that is it just one death or is it something that is affecting the unit as a whole? We are under different situations. So I think we will be pretending to say it doesn't affect us, but medically speaking, we learn from them. And at the same time, I think it is up to us that we do not try to be escapists. That even when something is not going right, the family at that situation looks up to us for support. They want us to stand with them because we and them have been a part of the struggle.
Right.
Some wars you win, some wars you don't. But at least create the spirit that we have fought it out together.
Right. Would you or have you ever operated on your own immediate family
No.
in a high-risk case? Would you ever?
No, I wouldn't.
Why?
Because you would get too personally involved. A couple of times the situation did come. I have a very close member of the family coming and telling me, we have trust in you, do it. I said, look, I can't do it. I have trust in somebody else. It's happened.
Right.
And I think this is up to the certain social proximity we have. Yes, I've operated on many of my friends' parents and that's a little bit different. In that case, what happens? You know their families and people very intimately. But where you have very close, very proximate social bondings, I think you're better because your judgment may be clouded.
Right.
You don't want such situations to cloud your judgment, to approach that. That should not be done in my mind.
Another area of contention is the number of tests that are generally given to a patient. How does a patient understand whether that test is useful or is it pointless?
You see, these, honestly speaking, there was a lot of hanky-panky about it. Again, errors of omission, errors of commission. There would be people, hospital surgeons. If you could do with 5 tests, they would probably want you to have 10 tests. But once again, over the combination of people knowing these days, of lots of watchdog activities, today, if you go and hit the net and say, what are the tests I require before a heart surgery, you'll get an entire pro forma protocol in front of you. So combination of all these things put together, it's a pretty much of a set piece play right now. But sometimes I tell you, we wish we did a few more tests. Like when today we have a scheme in our state, which I think in one sense it's a big problem, in the other sense it's the biggest blessing. You've heard of the West Bengal scheme called Shastro Shati.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in some ways, it has been it's been like honey from heaven. You know why? Because sometimes we joke and say the population of West Bengal is 10 crores and there are 11 crore health cards in Bengal. Might as well be.
Right.
Might as well be. But, I never imagined ever in my life that whether somebody is a hawker in the roadside, somebody who is an auto driver, forget about that. Somebody who's a home help, works somewhere in one of these apartments in multi-storied building, would without any inhibition walk up to us and tell us, doctor, I'm having chest pain. Do my test. If I need an operation, get it done. I'm having a card in my pocket. So this has really been, this was a terrible source of depression in almost the first decade after I came by. There were n number of times. We used to go on health caps and all, back of beyond, in the way out in the districts, rural communities, and tell somebody, you've got a big hole in the heart. Fair enough. Then after what? What's the solution?
Exactly, yeah.
The guy was sleeping well at night. So who are you to go and tell him, you've got a leaking valve, you have a hole in the heart? So that poor man used to sleep for at least 4-5 hours. So now he'll be sleepless without a solution. So that fact that we have lived through that time, that people can walk up to us. Yeah, it's bad news for us in hospital because you almost sacrifice your operating margins by taking those patients.
Right.
But I think we have to live through this.
Correct.
But what is the contra side of that? The contra side of that, you are functioning in a very shoestring situation. So there probably, say ideally speaking, if you needed 12 tests, you would probably do 5. Because that is how much that can accommodate.
Okay. Right.
Probably, I'm just saying, somebody might have needed, say, a CT scan of something, might have had a brain problem before. But we have thought, look, his allowance for this much, let's do it. So sometimes there are problems, slippages and breakages due to that. We do feel sad and we regret it, but you forget about that. That to me is still a smaller issue. But the mere fact, in my lifetime, I have seen a man who is working in somebody's house, who's a hawker, who drives an auto, who is one of these, civic volunteers with his family, who himself earns 7,000 rupees a month, can come up and claim treatment today. I think that is a great blow for freedom. And as far as that is concerned, we would have died a happy man.
Right. Do you think, more than 70% of India is still in the rural areas? So, do you think healthcare has reached rural India, or is it still neglected?
It's a no. The short answer is no. Healthcare has not reached rural India. Now the question is, what is rural India? Because if you did have a census somewhere in 2024, 2025, there is, I think, a ballpark estimation that you see most of the Indian population is not rural anymore. I think it is almost a 50-50, or maybe a slight tilt if you go down to the tier 2 and tier 3 towns and cities in
Correct.
India,
Yeah.
you would probably end up seeing that majority of Indian is urban, not urban to that sense. Urban doesn't mean metropolitan. So in that sense, now is the access uniform all over the place? No, it is not. Why is it not? Because look, Indian healthcare planning is a little bit of a hodgepodge. To cut a long story short, when we became, in 1947, we had no healthcare outside of the presidencies of a Kolkata, of a Calcutta, of a Madras, and a Mumbai, and because Delhi was the capital by that time, people were left to their own designs and destiny. There was no healthcare at all. Entire rural community was looked after by this, mumbo jumbo, witchcraft, this, that, some home cooked Ayurved, some Unani. So there was literally nothing. There was no primary health. And not for nothing, our life expectancy was around 40, 42 years at that stage. So there have been enormous strides after that. But the summary of your question is that do we have, recently you had the cup syrup disaster in Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
The children were dying because of the adulterated cup syrup. It happened in a district with a population of almost 25, 30 lakh population. They had n number of MLAs and n number of MPs, but sadly, that whole district did not have a single dialysis center. So these children were actually dying of renal failure from the adulterated cup syrup. And it was renal, only a very few children who could go up to Nagpur survived. Because for them to have dialysis from Chhindwara in MP, they had to go to Nagpur to get a dialysis, which should be reasonably a basic facility in any district hospital. So that is one of the examples that yes, it is non-uniform, but it is work in progress. Don't be despondent. We are just a 77-year-old country. USA is 400 years post-civilization.
Right.
England is a millennium post-democracy. So we are still in our nappies right now. But we have a lot of social work to do. So we are only a 77-year-old country. So a long way to go.
So you mentioned about the Baba and the Unani and all of that.
Yeah.
So even in present day India, there's a huge following amongst these Baba type doctors and all of that. And there's a cult following which they have. What is your opinion on them?
Look, that kind of, sort of unverified mysticism, every culture has it.
Right.
Every culture has it. I've been, some of it, I tell you, like if you go to the hardcore of Ayurveda, etc. So if you go to the hardcore of Unani, today whatever we practice in so-called modern Western medicine is a derivative of the Islamic medicine from 10th, 11th centuries, which was Unani medicine of those days. It changed hands, it went to Europe, Renaissance and all that, and we have a modern version of today. So even in the historical conventional constructs, there is a lot of good wisdom. Even if you look at the Ayurvedic concepts, there is a whole lot of wealth of knowledge over there. But the question is, a lot of people are exploiting that trade very superficially.
Right. Yes.
A pretty woman laid down with funny oils dripping all over the forehead and backside is not necessarily Ayurveda.
Right.
So there is a lot more to it. A very slim figure of a shining heroine with a bare back lying something and oil being rubbed over is not really the be-all and end-all of Ayurvedic well-being. There is more to it. So we need to invest ourselves in it in some depth and detail. Even for that matter, very beneficial. But even homeopathy is a very controversial subject. There are some people who will get benefit from it, dreadfully cheap. But how much of it works is a question. And you see, regarding all these people running after Babas and all, you've had so many serials being made after them.
Yeah.
So the least spoken about that, the better.
What is the reality of organ trafficking in India? How real is it?
It is real, right? If I try to be specific, I think in India, you see, I'm deeply interested and deeply invested in the organ transplant program. So we've done more than 10 to 12 heart and lung transplants in our unit. The only good thing about heart and lung transplants is you can't traffic out of that because you cannot take a heart out of a living man. So it has to come from a brain dead individual. Even then, brain death, it thankfully didn't happen in Bengal, but in some southern states, one of our most prolific states in heart transplant once upon a time used to be Kerala. And they goofed up on their brain death certification a couple of times. It is a person, it's a long Malayali name, I forget the gentleman's name, who basically through social media created such a lot of effective protesting, absolutely vitriolic, that virtually the entire transplant program in Kerala for 2 years have come to almost a roadblock. The public sentiment was completely antagonized because the hospitals and the doctors over here did not manage it ethically and did not manage it well. To cut a long story short, there is always a cloud of suspicion over kidney transplants.
Right.
A few thousand kidney transplants gets done in India every year, and if memory serves me right, in India, unfortunately, of the thousands of kidney transplants that happen, I think less than 15% are actually from cadaver. Because the bottom line is, for a country of 140 crore people, we are not very forthcoming with organ donation. In few urban pockets, Tamil Nadu has picked up significantly. Bangalore is picking up. Gujarat is showing a lot of promise right now. Calcutta centric West Bengal is doing slightly better than before. We've had more than, I think, 50 to 60 organ donations last year. If you wanted a parity vis a vis our population, we should have at least done 3 times the number, but we will get there. Now, because our organ donations are low, there is still a lot of, because kidney you can very conveniently do transplants, and in the unrelated kidney transplant business, honestly speaking, I regret saying it, but there is still a lot of muddy water over there. There is, to get one kidney transplant done, you need so much of paperwork. I'm sure in the unrelated segment, some of it is genuine, but regrettably, there are the loads and loads of government regulations, various uh, sort of verifications at many stages. But still, I think there is some that slips the net. So it's not a very totally clean exercise, not yet. Not yet.
How high can the cost go in the black market
For what?
for the kidney transplant or for kidney?
Honestly, I'm not, don't trust my figures for it, but I'm not really involved in kidney transplant. Heart transplants actually cost even less than some kidney transplants.
Okay.
But off the cuff, I've heard people talking about kidney transplants in terms of 30 lakhs, 25 lakhs to that extent. But you see, transplantation in India is not cheap. If you had a structured heart transplant with good outcomes, that costs around 15. A lung transplant costs more, around 25, 30. A liver transplant is quite expensive. That is around 30, 40 plus, because it requires a whole lot of paraphernalia, a significant amount spent in the critical care unit, all kind of high value medicines, and a whole lot of medical manpower.
As of today, what is the biggest blind spot in the Indian healthcare system, according to you?
The lack of clarity of policy.
Okay.
What do I mean when I say lack of clarity of policy? Is basically today, we are working at a default. You know why? Because as I told you before, like 60% of the activity happens in the private sector, 40% happen in the government sector. Now, a lot of the decision making in healthcare in India happens at the central level. If you look at if you look at the fine print of the constitution, health is actually a state subject. But a lot of the principal decision making happens with the center. Now, if the centers and the states could come to a consensus that, look, these are the activities which are happening in the private sector, these are the activities happening in the state sector, that clarity would definitely be more welcoming for the private sector people to come in and invest in the way they want to.
Right.
Some private sector may want to come in as a trust hospital. Some private sector may want to come in as a charitable hospital. Some private sectors may want to come in as a corporate hospital. Okay. Corporate healthcare in India is financially in the eye of the international investment right now. You have investment funds from United States who've established their presence in healthcare in India. The hospital I work with in the city is actually the parent holding of government of Singapore.
Okay.
Right. So Singapore has, through their Indian subsidiaries, they have a substantial presence in healthcare sector. So I think, like in the IT, like in tourism, like in hospitality, there has to be more clarity in policy, because you can have investment that can be built into our social system. And if you had that clarity, you see, we in some ways we are doing well. Certain things gives us anxieties. What gives us anxieties? For the last 5 years, India has about 20 lakh hospital beds. Well and fine. The whole of last 5 years, we've not seen this number 20 lakh go northwards.
Right.
How much should we have? India, at the bare minimum, should have 30 to 40 lakh hospital beds. So why is it not increasing? Because people who already somehow or the other had a presence in healthcare, they're probably putting a little bit more money in that.
Right.
But we are not attracting as much. So the body size of the healthcare industry must expand, and must expand exponentially. So in this center state confusion, in this private government ambiguity, a lot of the policy making gets lost.
Right.
Lot of the things gets lost. And the other thing which is very important right now is, as I told you, the government health scheme in West Bengal, yes, it really presses you as far as it caps your earnings basically, but great blessing to people. Similarly, we have, the people working in the central government. They have their health scheme, enormous number of beneficiaries. The ESI, all the people in the unorganized sector, they are all beneficiaries of ESI. You have the Ayushman Bharat of the central government. Now, many of these health schemes, who are they supposed to benefit? They are supposed to benefit half of India's population.
Right.
Okay. But what is happening is, the schemes, when I tell you what these schemes do, you will say fantastic. But many hospitals are a little bit shy to touch them. They touch some of them, not all of them.
Why?
You know why? Because supposing a certain scheme, say in Ayushman Bharat, n number of hospitals in North India. Can you imagine the capital of India, Delhi, doesn't do Ayushman Bharat? All these branded, swank hospitals, you go to Delhi, Gurgaon, not one of them will touch an Ayushman Bharat patient with a barge pole. Capital of India. India's showpiece healthcare scheme to the world. The government came up and they were shouting from the rooftops that this is the largest health scheme anybody's done. It's actually, if you look at the numbers, 30% of India's population is a huge number. It is the largest. But people are running away from it as if they have seen the shadow of Frankenstein or Dracula. And the reason being, you are, in one hand, you are low paying. I will enlist in the scheme. I will end up doing some 100 procedures, and then you will not see the face of the money for the next 2 years to come. So as it is, your absolute margins are compromised. So you are almost borrowing money to service the government scheme.
And then the payments are delayed by 2 years.
Absolutely. There are n number of hospitals in and Ayushman Bharat presently, I think probably a certain political party will beat me up for saying this, but this is God's own truth. You go and do a round of Delhi NCR, where all the government servants are central government. It's the home of central government. Go and find out how many of your Class A listed hospitals does the central government scheme. Go and find out how many of your hospitals even touch an Ayushman Bharat with your barcode. Nobody. So what good it is to the people? It is not meant to be a piece of paper you sort of wave at the people in the election campaigns. So this is one of the principal drawbacks, that do not just do election jumlabaji like that. You announce a scheme which is funded. So this is something, people expect a lot. So there are problems like that in various schemes. I remember, there was a quote by Manmohan Singh. He was an erudite economist. So Manmohan Singh once called the commissioner of the ESI scheme. Who benefits from the ESI scheme? All these people who are daily wage earners, right, in the non-formal sector. And the chap who was the head honcho of ESI goes and tells Manmohan Singh, sir, ESI today has got some 20,000 crores in surplus. And Manmohan Singh, being an economist, told him, you were supposed to be a service and not a bank. If I wanted 20,000 crores in surplus, I would have constructed a bank.
Right.
You were there to service and stand beside these people when they needed you the most. And similarly with ESI, they are the stingiest, one of the stingiest scheme. So in summary, it is very easy to be critical. But the important thing is these schemes, these election campaigns, these populisms, they must connect with the people. They must connect with the people. And I'm very sad to say that most of the central government schemes and all, they fall foul of this. What is the use? Today, again, I'm probably betraying my brethren, but today you go to many of these snobbish hospitals, You go to one of these modish hospitals, smooth shining lobbies, pretty receptionists. The first thing they will tell you is, yes, we do all sort of high-grade patients over there. No scheme patients come to my hospital. Is this what the country is supposed to do? Today it's become, it's like you displaying your diamond necklace in some kitty party in the evening. That you end up in one of the receptions of the swank hospitals. And it is a statement. The status symbol from the hospital will go out to you is, we are such a high-class hospital. We don't touch your patients. You go and say this to a hospital in London. We are such a high-class hospital. You don't, we don't service National Health Service. They'll give you a free holiday in the Tower of London. It's not possible. So this is where we are getting our social priorities mixed up. In my mind, in this country, if you are signed up to be a healthcare facility in this country, if the government has problems, sit across the board and sort it out with them. But I do not want any kind of, upper class, statement of aristocracy from any hospital who, I am God's gift to medicine. I'm here, I almost sort of do the whatever Botox therapy for aging heroines, and I am not interested in the common people coming with schemes. I think those hospitals should lose their license. None of those general hospitals should be given a license in our country. Not one of them. If you have a problem, sort it out. If you've opened a hospital, make sure you are accessible to the people. If you are not accessible, it is your citizens' duty to sit with them and sort it out. India has to pull its foot out of this trap.
Talking about these hospitals, what apart from this, this itself is a huge issue. You mentioned about London Hospital. I remember visiting a hospital by the name of Chelsea and Westminster Hospital.
That is where the Chelsea Flower Show is held.
Yes. So when I had gone there, I was sick. When I had gone there, I first thought it's a private hospital. I did not think, I was about to pay the bill. So I was there, they did my tests and all of that. They kept me for 2-3 hours in the best condition possible. And I'm there on a tourist visa. 3 hours gone, and then I'm about to ask you what is the payment. They say we don't charge any money out here. And it was shocking for me, for an Indian, to see that a public facility is of that quality. Now, why is this?
I mean, historically speaking, England is a story of two extremes. If you're really interested, the history of healthcare in England is very funny. I think in 1945, when the Second World War ends, so who was the great hero of England? Winston Churchill. So Winston Churchill comes up winning the Second World War, and he's very smart. There was an election coming up in end of 1945 or 46. He didn't even bother to step out of his office and campaign. He said, I'm a great hero. I have beaten the hell out of Hitler. I don't need to go and campaign in an election. And in order to contest Churchill, what the Labour Party did is, like our Ayushman Bharat or your Shastro Shati, they came up with a very popular scheme, because till that date, England did not have public health service.
Right.
In those days, when the sun never set in the British Empire in the Victorian age, the social quality of England was at its worst. Oliver Twist was written at a time when the sun never set on the British Empire. So Charles Dickens was living his life out in an England when England was high and mighty and the people on the streets were rotting. Then what happened was, from 1946-47 onwards, a very traumatic time for England, because England is losing its crown jewel, India, by that stage. But England goes out and adopts the public health care at that stage. And for a good 20 years after that, they never had any private system. Gradually, when there were various financial pressures, a little bit of private insurance came up from here and there. So that is almost idealistic. Who has it? England has it, Scandinavia has it, France has it, Germany has it. If you look back to Asia, one of the wealthiest countries ever on the face of Asia, Japan has it. No, there has been no country on the face of Asia or even today is wealthier than Japan. But look, completely socialistic healthcare system.
Right.
Even if you broke your head on the wall, you can't get private medical care in Japan. Very rare. Taiwan has it. So it is almost like an index of civilization. America doesn't have it. The number of people without healthcare in USA is more than the population of UK.
Wow.
Right. So Barack Obama tried to correct it. But now, this US government shutdown is why? Because as soon as the US Senate passes President Trump's bill, about 15% of their population will lose instantly. They will lose health insurance. So that way, US is a very unequal system. But we are getting into a stage, I think where we have 30% of people in India who have private health insurance. You have the bottom 30% who have these government aided insurance. But that has to be meaningful.
Right.
That cannot be lip service.
It has to be implemented.
That
yes.
cannot be just election jumla baji. That has to be implemented. But the people in India whom you and I should really worry about is the middle 30%, who probably do not have a lot of financial surplus. Many of them hesitate from getting into private health insurance. And it's a sad thing to say, very often they are not poor enough to qualify for the government.
Right.
So it is that middle 20 to 30% that we should, today, if you think of a family who is earning about 30, 40, 50,000 rupees a month, it is that family, that earning unit that we should care for today. They are earning, their children are going to school. The parents are slogging it out to put bread on the plate. But the question is, they are saving that 10 to 20,000 rupees annual premium they otherwise have to pay. Now, how do we come forward and help them is a very crucial question of today. We have to think about it.
What is that one darkest secret that Indian hospitals, public, private, doesn't matter, that they don't want the general public to know?
Perhaps we are not as bad as that, because it's not as if we send up like we've been part 4 of Mario Puzo's Godfather. We are not really as bad as that. But the question is, what are our principal shortcomings now? If you tell us, I think our principal shortcoming is that we are still in today's day and age, where you remember, probably you are too young to remember that song, when I think it was who was it, Sting or somebody, who sang, every breath you take, every move you make. So when every breath and every move, every data is kept properly, Indian healthcare today, the fundamental deficiency is our own data keeping, our own auditing, and making our healthcare activities properly audited, properly accountable, because other than that, we are pretending to work out some major or minor miracle every day.
Right.
Today's age is not an age of miracles. Today's age is doing something which is logical,
Right.
something which is ethical, something which is scientific. So I think we have our own whole lot of problems. We are progressing as far as the healthcare delivery is concerned. We are the only one-time third world country. We are the only bit of the planet where people with 10 times your GDP comes to you for healthcare. It's not happened in any other field. I'm very envious of my friends in IIT. I did get into it, but I didn't go there. Whenever I meet them, I tell them that it's been 115 years and you still have not manufactured a jet engine in our country. The moment you require a jet, you go and lick the soul out of some Frenchman and buy expensive Rafales from there. So if we continued on the same note of the evolution as the IITians,
Right.
who just got a visa and ran away, thanks to the great prophet called Donald Trump, that will, he is the next avatar of Vishnu. I think he will mean well. Donald Trump, according to me, is an avatar of Vishnu as far as intellectual life in India is concerned. Because the biggest intellectual scandal on face of this planet, called the H-1B visa, should be dead and buried in the next 48 hours.
Wow.
It is an absolute
That's a statement and a half.
It is an absolute scandal. It's an absolute scandal. And I think a Nobel Prize is due to the people of America for bearing up with this scandal for the last 30 years. If it happened in our country, I think 3 television channels would have dissected them north, south, east, west. It would have been dead and buried. How on earth Does an educated society allow this scandal to happen? God alone knows. Right. So once Avatar Trump has finally buried the great avatar for Indian intellectual life has finally done it, then I think we need to retain our talent in our country. And coming back to the question of healthcare, I think still many of the big corporate hospitals and the big doctors and the big units act very precious.
Right.
Everybody thinks of himself as a failed Shah Rukh Khan. And everybody wishes that we would rather be in Bollywood, and we are so precious. We have silver dust coming out of our ears and noses that we are unaccountable. I think that has to go away. The data, the outcome, the procedures, everything has to be recorded, and a proper audit and database system has to come out in India. This, I tell you, you as young people would realize today when we try to hold our heads high in international community, we are doing 300,000 bypasses. We are almost in head to head with America. This year we would have done the same number of cardiac surgeries as America would have. But the question is, America would have had 98% of those 300,000 operations recorded to the last detail. Have we done the same? We have not. Whenever you think we say that we need clinical data, we need clinical returns, the only clinical return that a big time Indian doctor thinks of is the income tax return. Right. So we have to go to the next stage of civilization when income tax return has to be replaced by clinical audit return and academic returns.
Right.
So we are waiting for that civilization to happen.
Right. I have two more questions before we end the podcast. Simple one, or maybe not a simple one. How much money does it generally take to start a nursing home or a hospital?
It's not an insignificant amount of money, but I can tell you a ballpark figure, because it's got to do with in which city, what is the price
Obviously,
of
yeah.
land.
Let's take tier 1 metro cities.
If you consider a tier 1 metro city, and if you wanted to put up, anything less than 100 bedded setup is honestly not cost effective. But probably you need to brace yourself for something like on the north side of 30 crores, 30 to 40 crores
Right.
to built in for that, which is honestly a cheap Bollywood movie. Basically.
And
so you would not get half an IPL franchisee for that cost.
And last one, how does one detect or rather prevent a disease or a heart disease rather?
You see, the question is, whenever people see an old boring doctor in their television or their mobile screen, I think they think that this idiot has come to tell us you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. The question is, we are going to die anyway, whether they see me or not. The question is not about dying, but the question is living well and, enjoy your time on the earth. You see, we all have a QR code built in there. The trouble is the pediatrician still doesn't know how to scan the QR code. Otherwise, the moment we walked out of our mother's womb, they would have scanned the code and told us that, look, these are what your genes are saying.
Right.
Your expiry date is printed over here. And when that day comes, one person would lose his job, that is God. There would be no more God on earth if that QR code was read. Now, till such time happens, a lot of misconceptions will flourish. Most important thing is, yes, we know a whole lot about diseases, but what is the good news? The good news is you are living longer, right? In a few days' time, when you see through the year 2025, so those of you who will be alive at the end of 2025, in 2026, your longevity has increased by almost 1 month. Okay. So out of a few million species on the face of the planet, you love your dog, You admire a tiger, a lion, a monkey, a baboon, a chimpanzee, a flamingo, whatever. Not one animal since creation has lived longer. We are the only one. Okay. So over the last century, our longevity has increased by more than 30%. India, with all its flaws, we are almost the first South Asian set of people who's got an average expectancy of 70 years. The next time you go on holiday, you live in the island in Japan for 6 months, your expectancy will go up to 85 years.
Wow.
That is their life expectancy. So the question is, we are doing fairly well. And we are doing well because people are aware that, what are the things we should not do. So do not invite problems.
Right.
Today, I'm sure there is awareness in people that do not invite problems to come. Be aware of basic things like your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your body weight. Keep yourselves active. But remember, the longer you stay in a house, the more repair work needs to be done. We are like a biological building. This building is made out of cement. We are made out of proteins and bones. So we are no different from a building. So we are going to live longer. But the longer you live, you want to be functional. You want to have your physical ability, your mental ability to move around. So keep yourself functional, keep healthy, and do not invite problems. And periodically, we need to be checked up. Right. We need to be checked up. And if there is, we are like a garage. Have you ever seen any new car driving into your garage? You haven't. So people come to see us when, certain bits and parts are creaking and causing some trouble. If there are, we are the mechanics. Right. We'll tighten up a few nuts and bolts over there. We'll plumb a few block pipes, and you go on, hit the highway again.
Right. Dr. Kunal, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank
My
you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you.
Had a wonderful time. Loved your anecdotes, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Thank you. All of you have a very good time.
Thank
All
you.
the very best. Thanks.